Hi everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. And today I'm going to do a quick little video about series that kind of went downhill for me. I was actually inspired to do this one by Samantha from Thoughts on Tomes. She's still someone I watch from my leftover fantasy booktube days, and she does read more romance these days, usually trade paperback romances. I haven't seen her really read many indie ones at this point, but I saw her do this and I was really intrigued to do it myself. I don't have a ton to talk about for this because I don't like to be super negative. These are just ones that I was really like invested in the series, and then it kind of like went off for me. It doesn't mean that I think the series overall isn't worth the time or that they still weren't okay, but more ones that like started out super strong and I was really here for it, and then it kind of like petered out. So I just have a few to talk about for that. So I'm going to go ahead and share those with you now. But before I do, if you're interested in my content here, I make mostly completely romance focused videos. Make sure you subscribe and like this video and hit the bell if you want to be notified when I upload, which is usually 3 to 4 times a week. Sometimes 5 because I'm manic that way. So let's go ahead. The first one I want to talk about, this one's just kind of funny and I definitely still recommend it. Like all of these, pretty much, I still recommend this series. I'm just saying that they didn't end as strong. And that's going to be The House of Isidore by Jodie Burkhart. So I found this series last year and it's absolutely bonkers. It is a polyamorous, reverse harem, bloody, vampire, blood play, blood sharing, shape-shifting, crazy paranormal series, okay? It starts with Queen Takes Knights, and it's about this young woman who she has some very tasty blood, and she has to move around constantly because there are paranormal beings who are always looking for her to kill her. And then she ends up running into 2 men who they previously had a queen that they were serving, and I can't remember the exact reason, but they ended up breaking off from their queen to go in search of like the prophesied queen or something. I don't know, the beginning's foggy. And they end up finding her and they start building her her like harem basically, because she needs to be able, they're called her blood, like because their blood is her blood, and so they're like building up her blood. And eventually we end up with like 12, 13 people in this. There's these huge orgies and like MMFF scenes happening, and I made it through the first 6 books in the series, and then there was some like little spin-offs, and there's even more books that still like came out. And I mean, I have to be honest, like books 1, 2, and 3 were really great for me. Like honestly, I couldn't put them down and I absolutely loved it. And then a lot of the like bloodletting scenes and the sex scenes just started to get really repetitive, and it started to be difficult because there's so many bodies involved that like you just don't know where to look, and it was just a lot. But I do, like, if you want to test out some like bonkers paranormal, like really sexy bloody stuff, like I do still recommend you try some of them. I know some of my friends have loved like the whole series, but there's just too much for me to keep going, and so it kind of tanked for me because I no longer knew what was happening because there was so much going on. But I still had a bloody good time in the beginning of this series, so I wouldn't take that away from you. The experience is quite interesting. Then, this might surprise people, but I'm gonna be honest, The Wicked Villains by Katee Roberts. So, y'all know I'm a Katee Roberts stan, so I'm by no means telling you shouldn't read this series still. I absolutely love it. But I'll tell you what happened for me. I love books 1 through 4. Specifically books like 3 and 4 are my favorite in this series. I love them, and I love what she does in this series. It is queer and sexy and BDSM and voyeurism and just all these great things. But it kind of went off for me a little bit with books 5 and 6. And part of that is, so book 5 is an FFM and book 6 is an FF, which was actually my first sapphic romance ever. And I have come to realize, because I've since now read another book by her that was FFM and I really liked it. So I know that it isn't just that I'm like not super comfortable with FF scenes. Like I really don't have a problem. Like the Queen Takes Knights, later on in that there's FF scenes too. That's not it. Mostly for me it's that specifically Malone, who that one is like an Aurora and Maleficent retelling. I don't like that kind of dom that she is. I don't like the like heavy punishment femdom vibe. I just don't enjoy it, you know, like we all got our kinks, we all know what we like. And so I enjoyed seeing Malone when she's scened with other people in previous books, because she does like help out sometimes in some scenes. But when it was her, just her kind of attitude and presence like made me uncomfortable, and so I didn't enjoy it. Now in the 5th book, sorry, I'm like walking backwards, the Sea Witch, I actually liked the FF scenes, and I didn't like the hero in that one, which is Alaric, which is like, that one is supposed to be an Ursula, Ariel, and Alaric retelling. And I didn't like the hero. He was a whiny bitch to me. And the stuff that Ursa had to go through with this throuple, I just wanted her to tell those two to fuck off and deal with their issues and have her find someone else. So in that one, I actually liked some of the FF stuff. Ursa, she has a collection of like tentacle dildos that get brought out, some for Alaric and some for Zuriel, and it was hot. So, you know, I didn't have a problem with her. I thought she was great. She was also really trying to make them face some of their issues. And I think it was just, she's like, well, what about me? Like, what about my needs and what I need from people? And I really appreciated the look at that. But it made like Alaric really unsympathetic to me. And so, and I'm all about the heroes. Like, if there's a hero in the story, like, he needs to be the right kind for me or else it doesn't work. So that's just how it went. I am loving her Sabine Valley series, which is all menages all the time. And I just read Broderick, which is the FFM, and that was great. So it's not because of the FF stuff. It's that I didn't appreciate the kind of character that Malone was. She just didn't work for me. So that series for me, 1 through 4, are very strong. They're very strong. And then 5 and 6, I just had more issues with them than others. Then the Kingmaker Chronicles, or the King whatever, but the Promise of Fire series by Amanda Bouchet. So I love this series. This is a trilogy that is about the same couple. It's about Griffin and the heroine, whose name I can't remember, but I remember Griffin. And it's this like awesome fantasy tale. There is gods and goddesses involved. There is a woman who has so many cool powers and great. And I love the romance in that series. I love how the hero is so supportive of the heroine, and he's like, you are the one who is the hero in this scenario. I am here to support you. He also is still alpha as fuck, man. He's so alpha. Some of their sex scenes are so great. But in their work, in what's happening, he's so supportive and loving, and I ate it all up. So I loved book 1, loved book 2. In book 3, there is specifically some detours that get taken that I know we're supposed to maybe lead to other stories that have yet to happen or may never happen. And because I don't have those stories to read at this point, it now just feels like wasted time. Maybe someday it won't feel that way, but there was a good 100 pages of this 3rd book that I was like, okay, land the plane, Helen, land the plane. And it just wasn't happening. So that, again, that's a series that I highly recommend if you love fantasy romance, but just know that in the 3rd book, in like the 2nd act of that book, there's a big chunk that you're just like, Also, by the 3rd book, the fight against the particular villain in that series got really repetitive. Like, they had the same battle in the end of each book, just in a different place. And I was like, okay, let's get a little more creative with this one. Then, the Like Us series by Krista and Becca Ritchie. So, this is a series that is actively still going, and I am losing my, like, patience for it. Like, I am waning. So I first started this series. This was one of my first male series I started with. Even though, so this is a spin-off from the, what are they called? The something sisters. I can't remember. Oh, I can't remember. But there's a series about 3 sisters. and the books like rotate between the couples or whatever. And this one is about the children of all of these, of these three couples before. So this is about their children and them finding love. And this series is gonna be like 13 books, they decided, and we're on book like 8, 7, 8. Book 8's about to come out, or not, whatever, I don't know. And so it started where the first 3 books were about a male couple, and it was a bodyguard billionaire situation, and it was super hot. I absolutely love them. These books are queer and amazing, and there's lots of bi, and there is like just, it's delightful. It's great. And I loved this couple. And then it switched, and there was 2 books about a girl and her bodyguard, and then there was another book about the original couple, and then it switched, and there's 1 book that's about a different gay couple, and now it's going to be, now there's a couple books about a throuple that's MFM. And when I read the most recent one, which was the MFM, which, number one, I'm not a fan of MFM. I need the D's, I need the swords crossing, or I get bored, because I'm not into it. I'm just not. I don't care what that makes me like. I don't like the MFM. I want everyone to love everyone and touch everyone and do all the things with everyone. But also, it was so fucking boring. Like the newest book, I snoozed. And I was so disappointed because I got that book the day that it came out. I was so excited for it. I was ready. And then I snoozed. And these are big books. And after I read that book, I sold the collection of the other ones. Because I had them physically, and I was like, I'm not going to like this series anymore. It is one that I'm still like craving more of it, because they're writing 3 books about this throuple, and then they're going to do another one. And so it's just hard because I'm interested, but also it feels like a series that they've made themselves so many kids. Like, these 3 couples have so many kids. One of the families has 8 children. And they're going to give them like all love stories. And I'm just like burned out of it, right? Like, none of it feels fresh and new anymore, because it's like you're just checking boxes. Like, we need to put these couples together, so I have to give you the book. And to me, that's something that's boring, because I think of like when I read a historical romance series where you can't wait for the next one in line, because the author is able to set up those individuals so well that when it's their turn, you're like, I'm so excited for this person to get their HEA. And I'm not feeling that with this series. Some people are rabid fans, and I get it. I love the series about the original couples, and I still own copies of that one. Like, it's beautiful. But the kids are really kind of burning me out. And so usually they're on like Kindle Unlimited, or I get it when it's pretty cheap. So I'll maybe still read them, but I'm not loving it as much. Then, because I'm going to be brutally honest with y'all, the Kimura Chronicles. I know, you're like, what the hell? So the last book in this series just came out like 2 weeks ago. Now the first 4 books in this series, specifically books 2, 3, and 4, I would die for these characters. Like, ride or die. I want to get a Camorra tattoo. Take me to Vegas. Let me live in the mob. That's how I feel about them. But the last 2, specifically Twisted Hearts and then Twisted Cravings, did not hold up the standard of writing that I expect. I feel like, I mean, this is just me judging, right? I feel like the author really strongly knew the story she wanted to tell about the first 3 couples, because the 4th book is about one of those couples again. And she has those characters so well fleshed out. But then Savio's book is just what the fuck. I think everyone agrees that book is not the same as the rest. And then Twisted Cravings, that book was really about the heroine. And it wasn't about the youngest brother who has this crazy story we've watched unfolding in all the previous books. And then we get to his book, and it's about the heroine. And it's not about all the drama that this hero went through to get to that point and the relationship with his family and all these things. It's about him helping her solve a problem. And I didn't appreciate that at all, because I was so looking forward to the drama that was going to happen with Adamo. I wanted to see about his time in New York, when he was working under another mob boss, when he was with Luca. I wanted to see, you know, there's a lot of hurt and stuff still between Remo and Adamo, and I wanted to see that get worked out. There was just so much left on the table, and it was really disappointing to me. So that's why I have to be honest, is that I had 2 6-star books from this series, and book 5 was a 3-star for me, and book 6 was a 3.5, 4-star book. I may take a star off of that upon reflection because it just didn't do what I wanted it to do. So no series is safe. I will be honest about it, but I still would never detract you from that series. That series is still worth your time, and I cannot wait for Sins of the Father, which the first book of that will be out at the end of the year, and I am ready for the children. Let's go. Make it happen. And then finally, the last series I want to talk about, this is a historical romance series, and I think a lot of people who start out this series know what I'm talking about. So Jennifer Ashley is one of my favorite historical romance authors, and she has this series called the Mackenzies and Mcbrides. It used to be called the Highland Pleasure series, and then it got changed to the Mackenzie and Mcbrides, probably to make it not seem like it was Highland porn or whatever, which I'm fine with. The first book in the series is The Madness of Lord Ian Mackenzie, which was in my top 3 books last year and will be on my top books forever. And then there is Lady Isabella's Scandalous Marriage. There is Lord Cameron's something, and then The Duke's Perfect Wife. And then it starts to switch between the Mackenzies and the Mcbrides, because one of the heroes, his wife, is a McBride, and so that's how we start to edge that in. Now, I still like some of the McBride stories, but this series is like 10 or 12 books long at this point, and it's not, I feel like it shouldn't keep going anymore. There keeps being short stories about different people, and then there was actually a timeline jump where they go back to the first Mackenzies who were around during Culloden, and I can only, like, I don't know if the author wrote this because of, like, Outlander inspiration, because it's like, the thing about the Mackenzies is that they were one of the few, in this story, in this specific, like, world, they were one of the few Scottish families that, like, didn't lose their land because of Culloden, because one of the grandfathers had, like, made some smart business decisions, so they got to keep their land. So they still have a Scottish duke, where a lot of other families lost that. So at one point in the series, she actually goes back 200 years to what was happening at Culloden, so that, or not 200 years, like 100 or so years. So we get to see that great grandfather and everything. And that just, it just doesn't have the same excitement as, like, the first 4 books in that series, and then even a couple of the McBride ones. So I don't know many people who've actually read the whole series. I was planning to read the entire thing, and I made it through, I think, like 8 of them, and then I just got stuck in the middle of the book that went back in time, because I was like, I don't want to read about Culloden, and I also am just like, about it. So there we go. All right, those are all of the ones I'm going to talk about. I'm sure there are other series that I can't think of currently, but these ones specifically were ones that either, like, I've dropped off of the series, or I just felt like they didn't end out as strong as they began. That's a hard thing to do. I am not an author. I'm not judging these authors harshly. Some of these are some of my favorite authors, as you can tell, but I just wanted to be honest about how I'm feeling about some of these series. So let me know some series that end up disappointing you. Let me know some series that didn't disappoint you. Tell me some series that you loved every single book in the series. I've also made a video about that if you want to check it out. I will link that up here, where I made a video about series that I loved every single book, which that's a happier one than this. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week. You can check out my socials down below if you want to hang out with me other times. Maybe check out channel memberships, who knows? So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!